Exit made this.
I was down bad. Grandmommy told me that
Understand that part.
So that's where it sits. To my knowledge, again, I don't know where it is in terms of, is it sitting at lawyers, is it wherever, but it has moved forward and we are preparing all the stuff to do the actual transfers. But again,
I'll forward that out to the board.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yep.
Number 10 is the pilot agreement for Marketplace Senior Housing Project. I cleaned up, accepted all the changes that were, I'll call it grammatical or formatting in nature, and just left the substantive ones. There were a few key points that we wanted to make sure were in there. I have gotten sign off from the developer. The only thing it's waiting is an update for attachment A, which is the description of the parcel, because they did a tax boundary adjustment agreement with Marketplace Mall. What I did is took the map that they shared and I highlighted the lines in red because in black and white, it was hard to see where they were. So that's just so you guys have it for now. It's going to be subject to town attorney approval. So obviously Don wouldn't agree with it until we get a parcel description that matches that map. BME is producing it, although I don't have a date. I told them that it's on for Wednesday, so hopefully they'll have it to us before Wednesday. But even if it's not, if we want to do it based off of what's on the map, and again, we would just make sure Don knows not to approve it till we get the next one.
I didn't see them respond to your email saying, are you okay with this?
He did.
Okay. Must not have
BME
CC'd me.
Yeah, I'll look. Sometimes people do a reply instead of a reply all. Sometimes I catch it, sometimes I don't. Both the Ryan Brandt.
Yep.
From the group doing the project, they've got their names in place. They've got all that. That was something else we were waiting on.
Yep.
We didn't want to approve it for a nebulous entity. We wanted the actual entities. They agreed to all the schedule. They'd agreed to everything. And then I sent a separate email to BME and they said they can absolutely produce it.
Okay.
If you actually look at the map, it's almost all there. It's just not in textual form, but they have each of the segments and the headings and it just needs to be put in the proper form. Any other questions on that? And that has all the stuff we talked about in the past in terms of the protection against if they stop being affordable, the pilot goes away. And that the people who are doing it, it's New York State. They're doing it through the Fair Housing Act, through New York State agency who does oversight every year. They do an audit every year. And so one of the things that they had is they had within 60 days to get us the results of that audit, but it didn't say when the audit had to be done by. So I included a drop dead date that we needed the stuff in our hands by, I think I picked a date in June, understanding, having worked with the state. I know that those can take a while, but I didn't want it to be open-ended. And they were good with that date, so.
Very good.
We talked about 11 previously. This is the relief from the rental registry fee. The approach we decided to take, we had looked at a couple different things. We decided the easiest one would be people basically will apply to, they'll express their desire, bring in the proof to the building department, like we used to do with the permit extensions at a workshop. They'll bring that to us. We'll vote it up or down. I don't expect, I'll leave it up to you guys how you decide. I tend to be.
Well, I got a question. I just saw on the news last week that the tenants and landlords are going to be able to apply through a state program, so they won't be out anything anyway. So I'm not
How
sure.
long will that money last?
What's that?
I'm
It
not,
won't last too long.
I don't know, but I'm not sure, you know, if this will be a moot point anyways, because these landlords may be out, may not be
It's,
out anything
right.
at the end of the day.
It's possible, but it's also $50 at the end of the day. We didn't want to deal with this. Well, I was, there for 11 months. I didn't get, whatever. I basically chose a number. We can change it if you guys want. I chose that it has to be a minimum of 6 full months without rent. If you guys want to use a longer one, but my point is I didn't want to make it a full year.
That's long enough, 6 months.
That's the way I look at it. Again, it's not much, but it's something. So as we talked about previously, we had the phase 1 environmental site analysis for Good Shepherd Church property. We wanted to just update it just as a cover ourselves kind of standpoint. It's only, I think it was $1,500, which normally I could approve, but again, because it's the same company and it's the same property and the aggregate's over 8,000, we just brought it back. But by doing that update, Don and I were talking about it, and we just wanted to make sure the chance that there's something under there is extremely slim, right? But just in case there is, one of the key things that limits the owner's liability is, did we do due diligence? And so we just want to make sure someone isn't critical that says, oh, well, your phase 1 was a year old. Okay, or more than a year old, it was just over a year old. So we'd rather do an update. The next is what we're looking for. I figure they know those volunteers way better than we do. Which of these applicants do you think best fits that, those needs? And based off of my dialogue with the person from that is who we'll put forth. But you'll have the list of everybody who applied, as well as who our initial selections are. And that's going to be during our one of our executive sessions. Okay. Remaining issue of solicitor, or resuming issuance of solicitor permits. So Kevin came to me end of last week and said, do we want to resume issuing solicitor?
So it really isn't that many of them. I don't really have any, thought either way. So if you decide to go forward with it, we'll move forward.
The law basically, politicians campaigning do not have to get solicitor license.
I knew that, but what about?
The Girl Scouts.
Yeah, I'm assuming those type of things don't. I don't know the law that well.
In my door was a roofer.
I can't hear you.
Sorry.
We can't hear you either, Lisa.
The people that came to my door was a roofer and windows.
Right.
But I mean, when the kids come around and they're doing stuff for sports or.
Right.
I don't think they should have to have one. But I think if people are coming around.
Yeah, we're not looking to change the rules from how they've been in the past. We just suspended issuance of permits during the pandemic. And Kevin's asking, should we lift that suspension? I'm fine with it. I just wanted to make sure the rest of the town board's fine with it. It sounds like they are.
I'm fine with it.
But we can look into that in terms of, again, I don't think it applies to churches. I don't know that it applies to charitable or not-profit organizations like the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts.
Yeah, it does not apply to them.
There's some exceptions. There's
Oh, it lists the exceptions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So one of the things we may want to consider, Kevin, is in the Summertown newsletter, we should suggest that people, one of the things we might want to do is on our website, have a location on your page, and here are all the current solicitor permits. And just tell people, if you get somebody who comes to your door and they're not on that list, or they can't show you their permit, let us know. Because there have been, to people's point, there have been some who come in and are trying to pull a scam. A lot of times, like with the windows and doors, not as much as windows and doors, but especially paving, it's somebody near you is getting a paving job and they're coming around to see if you're interested in joining in, because it reduces everybody's cost, because it's one,
Right.
you know, it's basically one cost to bring the vehicles there, so.
Good, Craig.
Go ahead.
Just so you know, I had a couple complaints just last week about people going door to door, but they were trying to test for gas leaks. I did not hear back from anybody that was legit either.
Right.
So that's even a little more scarier because they're trying to gain entry.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the other things we ought to make clear in that newsletter, you know, is say, whoever it is shouldn't get, there's no reason a solicitor should gain entrance to your property.
All right, I'll put something together, get that up on the website.
That'd be great. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
So one of the things we have coming up, as you know, the way we've typically done it is for some of these charitable events at the town park stuff, we don't charge a fee. The issue we've got, we typically go with a 501c3. We have somebody who is a not-for-profit and their paperwork on the 501c3 is not finished. Do we allow them to essentially supply with us their application and treat it as if they were a 501c3, or how do we want to deal with that? Or do we basically say, sorry, you have to have your 501c3?
Unfortunately, I would say to wait until they have it.
I would agree with Rob because lots of people can apply for the 501c3, but not necessarily be granted the nonprofit status.
So the other option we gave them is to go find a 501c3 organization who would be willing to co-sponsor their event. That we've done before with organizations that didn't have the designation. And typically you can find a 501c3 who is related to the type of event you're trying to hold. You know, so for instance, if you're doing something for battered spouses, you might reach out to the Willow Foundation, or, you know, if you're doing something for kids with special needs, you could reach out to CP or Rochester or a bunch of these different organizations. So, okay, again, it's one of those, I didn't disagree with that, but I didn't want to make that decision by myself. Pam, I don't know if you've got any questions or clarifications, or I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, I would say that's it. I don't see the point she was making to me. She didn't apply for the waiver on the fee, but I don't know if that's really the issue. It's more holding the charity event. So, because I was going to charge her the fee, but it's only $25.
There were a couple different special things we allow them to do differently than somebody who's not a charity, but.
Yeah, so perhaps what they'll have to do is keep looking for until, you know, if they want to do this, they're gonna have to find a 501c3 that can sponsor them until they get that status themselves.
Sounds good. 18, the joint annual report for compliance for stormwater. Chris, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, Chris Martin, Director of Engineering and Planning. So, yeah, basically, this is an annual report that is done in joint with the Monroe County's program. So obviously, right now, we're just want the town board to accept the report, and then we'll make it available for public comment.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Any questions?
While you're on, Chris, you want to touch on change order 1 for the Cabin Road culvert?
Yeah, so change order number 1 is to add approximately 180 linear feet of concrete curb. It's actually not part of the original scope of services for the culvert project. However, in the future, we wanted to realign the traffic lanes so they just flow better. And for part of that, we want to put this curb island in. So the opportunity was there for the contractor to do it while he's doing some other work. So we've reviewed the price, we've agreed with it, and we'd like to do a change order on it.
Yeah, so the purpose of this island is, you know, when the senior center's holding events, it's a problem if there's a bunch of cut-through traffic, especially when they go diagonal across the parking lot. So we're rerouting the road that comes from, right now, the road that comes from Town Hall dumps into that first row of parking for the senior center, the parking that's closest to the building. What we're doing is we're instead routing it straight across to the new bridge. So if it's town vehicles that are, you know, going across our campus, they won't come anywhere near the senior center. If it's somebody who's leaving from that and going out, they will first go all the way across away from the senior center and then head north out to Calkins Road. So that island prevents people from doing the diagonal, which has been a problem for the senior center, especially right now while we're doing these, you know, drive-through events, so to speak. But it's also been problematic in the past, even before the change in events by pandemic. So so once we decided to do that, then the challenge was finding a concrete company and curbing company and getting on their schedule. It's been exceedingly difficult. So when we Craig and Tim approached the CP Ward to see if their contractor would be willing to add 180 linear feet. They were. We did it that way. They were also going to do the next ones, but Craig reached out and found lower prices for the sidewalk and patio. So we're not going to do that through CP Ward contractor. We're going to do that separately. But for the formation of the curbs, you have a much smaller subset of people who have that skill set to be able to extrude the curbs and then do the formation. You kind of have to form the curves by hand. So anyway, that's what we're looking at. So it's not an overrun of the culvert project. It's separate. It's more for the senior center parking lot.
Okay. This isn't actually related to this subject, but a friend is on it. I had a resident reach out to talk about sidewalks on Varmer Parkway that are cracked. How do we get someone to take care of that? Is that our responsibility? What do we do?
Where is it?
Varmer Parkway.
Go ahead, Craig, if you know that answer. Well, hold on.
And he can answer it even.
You got to learn to stop talking until you're at the mic.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Craig, after DTS. I can answer to that. I know Mr. Kennel is probably on, and he can probably answer it better, but due to what you were expounding on with the concrete, there's a contractor that has an award for the county contract that we can piggyback and use. We are going out to other bids because he's just not available.
Gotcha.
So yes, those are town-owned, maintained, and usually there's a contract that has a good price to the county to be able to utilize, and they're just not available, and I don't know who else would be either. So we'll have to take a look and see how many linear feet and see what, it probably would fall actually under Tim Lessing's, highway budget, which is where the curbing is going to come from for the extra for the culvert. He's actually gonna do the curbing out of his budget for that. But that would be something else out of sidewalks.
All right, thanks, Craig.
I will note that it's one in the same budget that repairs the existing sidewalks as well as builds new ones.
Okay.
So one of the things, you know, depending on, obviously with the crack, if it's just cracked, not a big deal. If it's a displaced crack, then that can cause issues. And so we would have to analyze it, but if it's, you know, cracked in more of a cosmetic issue, I'll be blunt, it's probably not going to get fixed, because right now I'm more interested in putting in some of these connection sidewalks where there are no sidewalks.
Okay.
If it's dangerous because it's displaced, then we would look at pulling that section up and replacing it.
All right, I'll take a look at it and pass the information.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.
So again, as we talked about, there's the sidewalk. The installation of the concrete sidewalk is over near the rec center. It's south of the rec center, leading from the existing sidewalk on the south side of Minerva Campbell Drive to the bridge that we relocated over there from where the new culvert is going in. Eventually we will connect the south end of that bridge to the stone dust path that comes out of Stevens Pavilion. Don't know when that's going to happen, but we wanted to at least get the sidewalk in to connect to the path, because from there on it's nice grassy fields. And so, you know, it at least gets people to the backside of the ball fields, and again over towards the playground to the Stevens Pavilion. So it'll make a nice path for somebody who wants to walk from the rec center to the main playground at the Veterans Memorial. So, and then the other half of that bid is a patio outside the back of the new senior center. One of the things that we were looking to do, the senior center has gone over budget tremendously on that. Mike Catalano has stepped up to cover it from his sidewalk budget, but the plan is that next year during the budget process, essentially the senior center is going to pay it back.
Okay.
So any questions on that?
I'm glad Mike decided to take care of that for the senior center.
21 is the historic site. It's 1063 Erie Station Road. Is this one just calling for the public hearing, or did we do that at the last meeting, Becky?
We did that at the last meeting. We're having the public hearing on Wednesday.
In the vote, okay.
And we do have the property owner here online if you're interested in talking to them at all.
Anybody have any questions for the property owner? I'm just looking up as to, I don't know my Erie Station Road addresses.
It's right at the corner.
Is this Tyler?
Yes. It's
Oh, okay. I've had good email conversations with Tyler, but I don't know if anybody had any questions. So it's for 22, as you see, we have a donation for the library from Keith and Marlene Baker. I don't know if we had any questions on that. Linda had a number of cleanup, if you will, for stuff for the capital projects from the library, closing it all out. And then basically, since it was general fund money put in to seed that capital account, the leftover monies and the interest earned go back to the general fund. If I misstated anything there, Linda, let me know.
Hey, Steve. Yeah, this is Linda. This is for the pre-site work. It's not actually the entire library. That has not been completed yet. We're still waiting for the completion of the skylight.
Okay. Note to self, don't put skylights in future buildings.
Yeah, they are a problem everywhere.
I know. Well, there's other ways. At the court, we looked at doing it with a clear story. So it's basically the center roof is up higher, so the windows are on the side. They're not the actual roof. But yes, to Craig's point, you are required to bring in light into the central areas, but there's also the north light wedge so that the windows again are vertical instead of angled or flat. Budget items, personnel items. Any questions on those? It looks like bills payable. That's you, Rob.
Yes, sir. I've been waiting a long time. These guys have been doing a great job on those bills.
Anybody have anything under old business? Becky or Jenny, I don't suppose I've said anything to you about, let me cover that under old business.
Oh, boy. Not that I can recall at this moment. No.
Me either. I know I had one on a previous meeting, but I don't think I did for this meeting.
We totally forgot until the next day.
I did. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the previous town board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Barley,
Aye.
Councilmember Stafford,
Aye.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. As we will be discussing in an executive session, we have the attorneys representing the town have negotiated a confidential settlement agreement. We'll discuss it. And I think it's a very good resolution for the town. So we'll discuss the confidential portion in the executive session, but we'll actually vote on whether to execute it at Wednesday's public session. Any other questions on that? If not, the plan will be to go to the 2 executive sessions and adjourn straight from executive sessions. So when we adjourn to executive session, we will be terminating the broadcast. Any other questions or concerns before we do so? And can I get a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objections, meeting adjourned to executive session.